On this podcast, we'll talk about more than just basketball. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a two-time NCAA scoring champ and the NCAA Player of the Year. Honors I earned by putting in the work and staying focused on the bigger picture. I had dreams and aspirations of playing in the NBA a long time, but an ACL injury took me on a completely different path. We'll dive deep into real stories, challenges, and triumphs that athletes, coaches, and everyday people experience when chasing their dreams.
Be breeding warriors. Anything you place in front of me, I'll be victorious. Straight about the trenches where it's vicious, but it's glorious. Ready for whatever, never scared. We got the Lord with us in the ghetto, we notorious. This be breeding warriors. Anything you place in front of me, I'll be victorious. Straight about the trenches where it's vicious, but it's glorious. Ready for whatever, never scared. We got the Lord with us in the ghetto, we notorious. This be breeding warriors. My mama had to make a way. I grew up on Section 8, 7 in a 3-bedroom apartment. Don't test your faith. Close my eyes.
A Starstruck podcast, back at it. Once again, bringing you the best content, the best guests, and I have none other than one of the most powerful, strong individuals. Not only has been an inspiration in my life, but just all over the world. And when you say this young man's name, I can't say enough about it because everyone knows the magnitude and the strength that this guy possesses. All right, Mr. Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. Hey, man, such a pleasure to have you. Such a pleasure to have you. How you doing, man?
I won't complain. The pleasure is mine, and I don't use my words lightly. So I thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So if you don't mind, man, I want to just kind of run down your list just so people will know. And this is why. This is why for me. When you say your name in the present day, a lot of people don't know the impact that you had from a basketball standpoint. And we'll get in it both personally and basketball-wise, but just from a basketball standpoint, I mean, it was such just an inspiring time just watching you play. But nevertheless, this guy was a two-time Mississippi Mr. Basketball, McDonald's All-American, SEC All-Freshman team, averaging 30.2 points a game, 2 times SEC Player of the Year, and the National Freshman of the Year, NBA All-Rookie Second Team, NBA Most Improved. After the NBA, he ended up playing in Russia and became a Russian Cup champion. You playing in the Big Three. It's so many more accolades that we can talk about, but this guy, man, you guys have no idea how honored I am to have him on this platform because we're going to talk about some great things today. And again, I just wanted to make sure that I gave you flowers while you were right here, Mr. Mahmoud.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How's everything going? Where you at?
Well, I won't complain. I'm in Georgia.
In Georgia?
About 30 minutes from the city of Atlanta. So I've been here for about 20 years. I just felt the need to I went back to Mississippi after I left the league, stayed there for about 4 years. We established an Islamic community down there, the first in Gulfport. And so they elected me as the imam for those 4 years while I was always trying to push them to find someone else.
Wow.
And so, we just decided to change some things a little bit. And we've been here for 20 years.
Atlanta is a popping spot.
Yeah, I know, right?
For sure, man. So tell me about where did you grow up?
I grew up in Gulfport, Mississippi. It's about an hour, 10, 15 minutes from New Orleans. And the other way, it's about an hour, Mobile, Alabama, in between the two.
From my understanding, there were very humble beginnings.
Yeah, it was. I grew up in a part of town we call it Soria City, but it's spelled Soria, Soria City. And, single parent, without a father, never knew my father. Mother just worked hard, man, just tried to do the best she could to put food on the table. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us have these stories, right, of sugar water, syrup sandwiches,
Right, right.
all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to put something in your belly. So that was me. Uh, Picking pecans, man. They fall off the tree, man. I grew up at a time too, and they're trying to get rid of farms now. It seems right, but where you can walk down certain streets and you may see some pears.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
so you may see blackberries by
Yeah.
the railroad track. So those things kept us fed.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I think I read something where you said y'all had to basically hunt for your food, right?
Yeah, my brother. Well, not all the time because you have all that other stuff, and we have family too. We have family that stayed in the neighborhood. So I don't know so much now, man. It seems like there's no sense of neighborliness
Yeah.
the way it was when we were growing up,
Mm-hmm.
where you can go knock on somebody's door and say, "Hey, can we borrow some sugar? Can we borrow this?"
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to do that at times as well. But my brother would go out occasionally, and he would take his little BB gun and he would shoot squirrels and clean them and all of that type of stuff, man.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. My older brother David, man, he was, yeah, he didn't mind putting a pellet or a BB or something in something. Yeah,
We all got those
yeah,
friends.
right.
Wow. Wow. So did he hoop? Your older brother, did he hoop?
Just for the fun of it.
Okay.
No, yeah. My younger brother tried it, but the pressure was too much for him.
Okay.
Hearing my name a lot. Yeah, so for the most part, man, my older brother, man, he just played pickup.
Okay.
He was pretty athletic, but never became attached to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used to. I can say it now, but I used to give it to him.
That probably is
that big brother, younger brother rivalry,
absolutely.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
I had a lot of that.
but I had some grace to it, man. But I lived and breathed it though. He
Yeah,
didn't.
for sure.
I was doing it every single day, as many hours in the day that I can get it in. I was getting it in, so that makes a difference. You already know.
Exactly, man. Let's talk about that though.
Mhm.
So where did you catch that feeling? Where did you fall in love with the game at? Like how old were you and kind of what were the dynamics when you fell in love with the game?
Man, well. Before that, I just loved to compete. I used to watch football. I used to, when track would come on. I mean, we didn't have cable or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
during those certain times when things would come on television, and then we always had the Atlanta Hawks because we weren't that far from 6 hours or
Oh,
so from
okay.
Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So they were our local team in Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
and so I just loved to compete, man. And then when I came up too, if you wanted to be a part of something, everybody was at the playground. It wasn't like today when you have social media, right, and all those distractions. And so they were playing football, they were racing, they were playing basketball, they were playing baseball. So that's where you were. But for me, basketball made more sense. And it was just it came more natural because I have Tourette Syndrome, and so just playing football and putting on all of that stuff, the time it takes, taking off. Basketball is just, I mean, it's a ball. You got a hoop.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need much, and I just felt that it was something in it, man. That it just felt more natural to me. It was easy to wake up in the morning and go do that. Football, it's like I had to get pissed off.
Yeah. For
You know
sure.
what I mean? Because you got to go get somebody. Got to hit me. I got to hit them.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, yeah. So, but basketball was just natural. I just loved the whole thing, the way the ball bounced, the feeling of shooting it and just everything, man. So that was around 9, 10 years old, and that's when I made that's when I like to say soulful decision. I made the soulful decision, like, man, this is what I want to do with my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started literally. And I say it's by the grace and mercy of God, man. Because who's thinking this at a 9, 10-year-old? Like, I'm going to start waking up super early
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to dedicate my life to this. And I know you taught don't put all your marbles in one basket,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but that's what I did. I'm like, man, I'm going for broke.
I could
I'm
tell,
putting
man.
everything in. Yeah. So, but at that age is when it clicked for me.
Mm-hmm.
It clicked on and for so many reasons. Not only because I loved it, but because I felt that naturally this was something that came more natural uh, to me. I felt I had a chance,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So the love of it, the way it felt, and man, it's just too, growing up in those environments, man. Look, man, uh, I don't want to work a 9 to 5.
Of course.
And I got to use this as a way out. And so it was life or death for me,
Yeah.
and that was my mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? That's why I use the word lightly, but kind of heavy when I say love, when you fell in love with it. Because our like you said, our stories are very similar. When you talk
Mm-hmm.
about, players that went on to become great and play at a high level,
Mm-hmm.
I think we all shared that at one moment. But I mean, yours was such an extraordinary accomplishment down the line, and you can just kind of tell that it came from deep within. And that leads me to my next question. Just from a dominant standpoint, when did you feel that when did you adopt that dominant mindset? Because there's certain things that has to happen from a basketball standpoint or an athletic standpoint that allows you to think, okay, not only am I going to be good at this, I'm going to dominate this. Like, when did that happen for you? Was that young as well?
That's a great question. The idea of dominating was at 9 and 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I said, man, I want to be the greatest to play the game.
That's
I would
awesome.
argue. I would argue with my cousin at the time. His name is Robin,
Mm-hmm.
and he would say, "You can only be one of the." I said, "Man, I want to be the greatest."
Right.
And we would go back and forth. I was like, "I know the greatest to ever play." And so at that young age, the idea was there. But when I started to feel I really had a chance,
Mm-hmm.
um, and this is gonna sound crazy, and it's great that it was early, not later. It was in elementary school.
Really?
Yeah, because I remember playing. I would always try to play up. You play those games of 21, and then they go in 3-on-3 after the 21 games. They let's pick teams, and I'm playing against high schoolers,
Mm-hmm.
and some of these guys are out of high school, and they start picking me first pick. But remember, I'm waking up every morning at 4 o'clock, and I'm at the court by 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm out there like working like it. Like if you would have saw me, you would have been like, "Who is he playing against?" Because I'm out there, man, 2, 3 individual people, and I'm going at. I'm breathing. Every day was almost like a. And I don't say this. I don't use my words loosely.
Mm-hmm.
I had almost every day was a near death experience because I was working so hard. I
Mm-hmm.
be,
Mm-hmm.
can't catch my breath
Yeah.
to the point, man. It's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And so at, at that age in elementary school, I remember having some games. We played a team, I think Westminster or something,
Mm-hmm.
and we lost. And it was like, what was it? It was like 50. I can't remember the exact. So I said this story so many times. It was like 53 to 50.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like 45 of, you know what I mean?
Of the
Of
50.
our 50. We lost it
Okay.
by about 3, but I had like about 45 of our 50 points.
Yes.
Then there was a game we lost 36 to 43.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I almost beat the team. I had all 36. And, and I said, man, this is coming, this is just feeling easier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The more I'm doing this, but a lot of it was because of the work, and then I'm playing with older people. So when you finally get out there with your age group, You getting pushed on and the resistance with older people, your speed, your change of direction, your explosion, all of that's just, you don't even hardly feel them anymore, right? It's
Exactly.
going right. And this is what I tell a lot of people. So for me at that age, I said, man, the idea, but also like I can, if I'm doing this with these guys who's been playing longer than me, and I'm a fourth grader, what's the difference as the years progress? Me doing it on another level. And so that's what it constantly just forced me and influenced me to work even harder because when you get that feeling and
Yes.
you can do what you want, man, you don't want to lose that feeling. I want that feeling all the time. So that kept me going right back to the court every single day, pushing it harder because also I knew at that young age that I'd have a target on my back and always want to be ready.
Yes.
And so this
100%.
is why I would train a lot by myself, imagining I'm playing against 2, 3 individual people, and they're always this close to the basketball.
Exactly. I
And I'm
understand
trying
that.
to, I'm trying to
Feel
create
it.
space.
Yeah, feel it. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
you imagine getting hit and everything.
Exactly. You can do it. You know what?
Right.
Imagination is the biggest part of being, great. You have to have that visualization. And I'm gonna tell you one other thing that's impressive. First of all, it's a pleasure to have this conversation because a lot of people can't have it that doesn't have the dominance and the scoring mentality. So I definitely come from that. And watching you, watching Mike, watching people coming up is what established it for me. But this is a big part of it, man. And I tell people this all the time, and it's hard for people to feel. Like the feeling that you get when you're hot. Let's say, when you get 30, 40, and you hot, that feeling, it can't be described to the average person, okay? But it's a such thing, and I think you're describing this. It's a such thing as practicing being hot, like practicing that feeling. And it's just like you said, like you don't want to let it go. You don't want that feeling to leave. So when you're training and you're working out, 8 out of 10 ain't good enough because that ain't how you feel when you hot. You got to go 10 for 10. And some of the people that I'm around and train with and, as a player, I was known for that as well. But it's just such a pleasure to hear somebody speak like that and understand it, especially after watching you, man, especially after watching you.
No, I appreciate that, man. But I agree with you. When you've lived it, experienced it, it resonates more.
It does. It does.
Look, there's a saying in my belief that it's hard to be patient or to understand what hasn't been in the scope of your experience.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean?
Like for example, how many times you have 50 in a game? Is it hard to count?
No, well, at LSU for those 2 years, I had 50, I think, or more 4 times. I think over 40, 14 times. And high school, I can't remember, but I was just having this conversation with a partner of mine also. The thing with me is, I came up with a coach that he didn't believe in wasted movement, over dribbling, none of that stuff. Once you get into your move, 2, 3 dribbles, something's gotta be done. And so I don't want to lose my train of thought, man. It's just so.
I know. No, we here to talk, man. Yeah. This is Jules. I love it. Everybody needs to hear from you, brother, because it is really that good. So go ahead, man. You take your time.
Well, I grew up with a high school coach that he saw something in me, and he let me go. But also, like when I was in junior high, even. We never played over. I was averaging like 21. We didn't have a 3, and we only played 2 quarters. And so even in college, even at high school, if we were blowing out a team, like you would hear players like, oh, they had 70 and 80, and they were blowing the team out. We never we never did that.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I scored 50 or more is we needed it.
Yeah.
I was
That's
never
different.
that dude that said, I want to go see if I can score 80 or 90.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, I prided myself on always getting it in the flow of the game.
Yes. Yes.
And that's an art to that.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many nuances and rhythm. Life is rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball is a rhythm.
Uh-huh.
No different. You know, and when you're able to, it's one thing to go and you over dribbling and you taking away from other people.
Mm-hmm.
It don't look as good.
Right.
But when you getting it in the flow of the game,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
even more impressive.
That's
When you getting it with the least amount of dribbles, that's more impressive. There are levels to these things. There are nuances. And I talk about that a lot. And like even this younger generation, oh, I like this. I said, beautiful, man, skillful player can do this. I said, but a lot of time they over dribble. They take too long.
Mm-hmm.
You do this and do that, you know, because that's how our mind works. And I said, no, not taking anything away from them. There are levels to this, though. What's more impressive, taking 6, 7 dribbles to get your shot or 2 or 3?
Come on now. You know what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, it makes more sense. It makes more sense. 2 or 3.
Exactly. So be efficient, right? And this is what I try to teach when I do train, man. Just, and there's so many things, but my thing is from taking the unnecessary stress out the game to making it look effortless.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a guy averaging 30 and
Mm-hmm.
and he's looking good, but if you got a guy he's smooth,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean he's not working hard.
Mm-hmm.
I said he's mastered the art of making it look easy. I said, which one is going to look more impressive? The one that's making it look easy, or the one that's you know, got all of that tension? I said, so because it makes you look more impressive.
Yes. Yes.
And longevity, less stress on your body and your joints, right? And so this is what I used to pride myself on. Like, Mahmoud, you're small. They're already looking at that.
Yeah.
And for guys our size, we have to be exceptional.
Exceptional.
If there's a 6'4", 6'3" that can do what we do, they take it.
Exactly.
Oh, we got to have something that just pops out like, oh, yeah, I know he's smaller, but God, dog, man. Like Muggsy. Muggsy will D you up from one end of the floor to the next.
Mm-hmm.
He was 5'3".
Absolutely. Yes.
And he was strong. He had leverage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, so he had something.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so he couldn't come out and not be like a 6'3".
Mm-hmm.
He would have never made it. So anyway, I don't want to go on no tangent, man.
No, man, you can go on a tangent. I'm telling you. No, because this is the type of information I like to provide the world. You know, because like I said, the average person doesn't get this type game situation. Like I look at it like, even when you talk about getting a lot of shots, like some people can look at you and say, "Hey, Knox, you shoot a lot," or Mahmoud, you shoot a lot, but don't leave out this part. I make a lot too. I'm efficient. Now, if you want to call me something else, you got to make sure you add that piece that I ain't going to miss too often now. So long as you know that piece. And I think that's what you're speaking on, man. Just, 1-2 dribble, make sure you get to your spot and be as efficient as possible, man, because that's a great attribute in today's game. And I think it's a lost art, to be honest.
Yeah. No, it is. And look, man, I tell people this all the time. I say, this is not socialism.
Right.
Everybody, look, man, ain't getting the same amount of shots, the same amount of dribbles.
No.
Right? That's why they got a starting five. That's why they got a second team.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so there are people that literally have earned the ability to do those.
Of course.
And especially if you can do it without taking your team out of the flow of things.
Yes.
There's always going to be role players. There's always going to be a hierarchy based on skill level and what you bring. And this is sometimes what, we live in an era now that everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah.
What are you teaching these? No, man, no. Everybody don't get a trophy.
Ain't that crazy?
You didn't do enough to deserve it. Right? And so this is what we have to change, this psychology that, no, man, some people have earned that spot to be able to do that. Does that mean that they're always going to be perfect. No, there's no such thing as perfect,
Yeah.
right? But when you look at, I've had this even growing up in high school. I've every year in high school and happened in LSU. The only game that I didn't score double figures was against Auburn, 9 points, because I was upset.
And you remember too. But what happened, man?
I remember because it mimicked so many things that happened in high school, mimicked my LSU days. And I remember we had a tournament in the Newman tournament in New Orleans. Coach Jenkins, bless his soul, he came to me. I thought the timing was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I understood what he was saying, but I was offended.
Mm-hmm.
He said, Mahmoud, he started off by saying, at the time, my name was Chris. He said, Chris, listen, what I'm about to tell you, listen to me. And I knew already just how he bringing it. Something ain't right.
We know.
he said some of the players are upset they ain't getting the ball enough. And I'm looking at him, right? He said, just get him involved a little bit more. But all I could hear is they're upset they ain't getting the ball. And I'm like, well, what did you tell them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because is it my fault when you keep, because he had a play, he'll raise the fist.
Mm-hmm.
That means isolate.
Clear out.
So am I to blame because I can get my shot off?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you keep calling this play.
Right.
Right. So I got upset. Right. I thought he didn't necessarily defend me enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went out. It was the last game. We could have won that game. We could have won. I did not shoot until maybe 4 minutes left in the game.
Mm-hmm.
He kept me in the game. He ain't taking because he knew I just kept passing it because you had guys talking.
Right.
You know how sometimes guys, they see you.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that. I can do if I had those shots. So I'm like, okay, here you go.
Right.
I'm giving it to you. You want to be that dude? Here you go.
There you go. Let's go. What you got?
We're down. We're losing. 4 minutes. Man, shoot the boss. And I don't like the curse, but I said something back to him. And then that last 4 minutes, I think I went off about 13, 14 points, but it was too late.
Mm-hmm.
And then I vowed after that, I said, man, I ain't never gonna let somebody deter me from my mission again because of the insecurities or whatever. And then at LSU, the same thing happened again.
Wow.
I'm like, dude, I'm not a selfish guy, but if I got the shot, a part of running plays, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Is that at any moment, if I'm running and I got to pass to this wing, but he overplays it, the play is just a structure. Mm-hmm. But if he overplays it, I got to be intelligent enough. Okay, I'm not going to be trying to do this and get the ball to the wing. I'm going to cross you over
and go.
And I'm going to take advantage of the overplay. And if I got a shot, I got it. If I don't, I'm going to pass it. And so I got offended again. Coach didn't take me out the game, but I was just passing the ball. And I ended up having 9 points, and I got mad at myself again. I said, why I keep doing this, man?
Right.
It'll take one of these games every year to piss me off. And then I won't let it happen no more.
Yeah.
So my point is, this ain't socialism.
Right.
Not everybody get the same amount of touches, the same amount of shots. We're not ignoring you, but hey, and there's a time and a place for everybody.
I agree. Yeah. So talk to me about this, man. What, like your transition to LSU? Obviously, you went there and you played with Shaq. That was a big time situation. Tell us a little bit about that, man. I know that had to be a nice experience.
It was. When I first got to LSU, I remember Kent Lowe, a guy in journalism, asked me the question. He said, what do you want your career to say for itself? I said, if I can average 13.7 assists, that'll be a decent career. Now, don't get me wrong. My heart, my mind was telling me, man, I'm trying to dominate. I'm trying to kill.
Of course.
But I understood at a young age, it's kind of like what you hear now with Shador, right? Oh, he's cocky, he's this, he's that. Even when Tiger Woods came out and said, I want to win. Why go to a tournament if you don't want to win? And they still viewed it as cocky. So even at that age, I'm like, you know what? I ain't going to tell them everything. Because if I say, look, man, I want to dominate. I want to be the best in the world. they'll probably think, man, who are you to think this?
Mm-hmm.
Or it might be misconstrued as being cocky.
Of course.
But also, I did understand too that 13 and 7 are decent numbers,
Absolutely. As a freshman.
right? But I wasn't about to tell them my whole vision.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what was interesting, and I tell people this too. I said, if you want to change people's perception, right, they have to see. You just can't talk. So I would make it a point. I come before practice, even though they've seen me in high school. I'm in practice. Even when I was in junior high and high school, elementary, I would get to practice early, and I'm leaning,
Mm-hmm.
I'm dribbling, I'm shooting, because you never know who's watching.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm training your eyes to see me differently, right? I don't want you to put me in no box. And so I want you to get used to, like, man, I see him working on that every day.
Mm-hmm.
So when I do it in practice, it's not like, hey, I don't see you working on that. Don't take this shot. Don't. He can make that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did the same thing at LSU. I would go to the basement. I would come early, and he's sing it. So after that first game, I literally had about what I said I wanted for my career, 13 and 7. Second game, I had 21. After that second game, I said, man, because I'm trying to still do a temperature check with coaches, players. But I noticed, I said, man, this feels like I'm back in, like, literally, this feels like high school.
Exactly.
Like, no, literally, like, I'm thinking, man, all of these bigger dudes, but that's the power of consistency too. Working on something every single day, pushing yourself to the limit. And consistency is going to eventually show up in times like that. And after that second game of 21, I remember him grabbing me at the walking in. We lost it. He said, look, we're going to need you to score more. I said, Coach, I'll try. My third game as a freshman, we were playing Louisiana Tech, and I had 48. And then after that, I had 36, I think. And then we go to Florida. National televised, and I get to 53.
Mm.
You know, and it felt like I was literally, I'm like, man, this feels like I haven't skipped a beat.
Mm-hmm.
And remind you, I don't say this a lot. I was 30 pounds overweight.
30 pounds overweight?
My beginning of my high school senior year, I was 155. They put me on Haldol and Prolixin, which is a psychopathic drug that they, I didn't know it then.
Mm-hmm.
It puts you to sleep. It makes you eat, sleepy, and thirsty. So if I'm not moving, I just sleep. I gained within that, because we play like 40-something games a year in high school at Gulfport High. There's no way I should have been 172 at the end of my season.
Wow. Then
I was 185 my freshman year in college. So 155 to 185, that wasn't my weight.
Yeah.
And so I was literally 30 pounds. I was overweight my first year in college. I can only imagine if I was my playing weight now. When I went to Denver, my first year was about 180 something.
Wow.
Bad 180 something.
Mm-hmm.
Then I ended up losing 40 pounds, getting back to my 155. That's when I got most improved. Wow. When I got back down to my high school weight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's yeah, man, I'm all over the place.
No, it's okay, man. It's okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that you you shared that, to be honest, because obviously we're going to go into the Tourette's. How was Shaq as a player, as a person, How was
what you see now with Shaq, he's definitely matured in some ways, but in terms of his playfulness,
yeah.
Look, man, he was like that then, break dancing, joking, but when he was on the basketball court, you saw early that this guy's relentless.
Yeah.
Like, he was aggressive. He wanted the ball. He didn't mind taking intelligent risks. And he said something to me in the dorm room. I don't know how he had this foresight at the time. This is before they even start signing big contracts. He said, I'm going to be the first player to make 80-something million.
I could see him saying that.
No, yeah. I said, hey. And he made way more.
Way more than 80.
So I don't know how, what information he had, but he had that vision.
Mm-hmm.
Practices were intense. I mean, because he's a hyper competitor, Shaquille, you know, and so am I. Right. And so that just makes us better.
Of course. Of course. So I know we touched on this a little bit, and I want to kind of bring this to light, man. But the actual Tourette syndrome, you know, for the people that don't know a lot about it, including myself, you know, just give us an overview of it, like how it was for you, how you're handling it today, and just, you know, some of the challenges that you faced, you know, having that.
Yeah. Well, it's a neurological disorder. And the way I explain it is your mind and your body on two different wavelengths. Right. So if I hit this glass and it didn't feel good, if it didn't roll off my knuckles the way I want it, I have to keep hitting it. Even if I hit it hard and it hurts, I still have to hit it hard until, and this was one of the things I would do growing up on the basketball court. I would hit the court and it would be so painful. But my mind and my body have to feel like it's on the same page before I can go to something else. But it'll draw me back to it constantly. And so whether it's something like that, reading, if I'm reading and it doesn't roll off my lips the way I want it, the words, or if it doesn't roll off my mind the way I want it, and let's say both are going, I'm doing both, and say it rolls off my mind and my lips the way I want it, but I don't understand it. All of those pieces have to be together. So it might take me 20 minutes, man, to read a page. And so when I was in junior high school, they thought I was slow in learning as a result of that. And they forced me to go into a special LD class.
Yeah,
was what
I
they called it
remember
back
LD.
then.
Yeah, for sure.
And man, I was devastated. I say, Mom, I don't belong. Please don't let them do this, because you know that stuff could damage you.
Yes.
And I was just fortunate to have a teacher at the time that said, look, if you can show me within a few months, we'll get you out. Man, I buckled down. He said, you don't belong. I said, that's what I was trying to tell you. But Tourette's is your mind and your body have to be on the same page, or you'll constantly. And I could be working out sometimes, and in between, I'm holding my breath, and that tires you out more.
Yeah, for
right.
Sure.
But also, one can say it's getting you in shape too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, building.
Exactly. Right. So it was waking up in the morning. It may take 45 minutes to an hour to get out the house.
Wow.
Because I might get out the bed, it don't feel good. I got to sit back down, get back up, sit back down, get back up. I'm putting on my shorts. I take them off because they didn't roll off over my leg the way I wanted. Shirt. I mean, it's one thing to the next. Walking through a room, walking back through. I mean, your mind you're trying to get a balance. And man, it's just constantly playing tricks with you. And so this is how I usually describe it. Even with dribbling the ball up the court, I'm going now. It took me an hour to get out the house. Now I'm on my way to the basketball court. I'm dribbling, pop, pop. If I would mess up 2-3 times on my way to the court, I would have to back up 10 steps where I came from and do it again. And so I'm constantly doing this. That may take me 45 minutes to get there. I get on the court, then I'm going through my stuff. It don't feel right. It don't go in the way I want it, right? All of these things, that may take me on that hour and a half. Then I'm leaving the court. It doesn't feel right. I'm back on the court again, doing that same workout another hour just to make 10 shots the way I want to make them. But what I didn't realize was I did and I didn't. It's a headache, but it's also building me. Building me in ways that would have never built me without it. And that's what I tell people. They say, well, if you had to choose not to have it, would you? I said, oof. I said, man, that's so enticing. Because, man, it's a headache, I ain't gonna lie. But I've also witnessed the major benefits. And I don't think God gives us something that we can't bear. And I said, you know, and I said, I probably opt to keep it because I wouldn't. I was always taught to be courteous and all of those things growing up. But having something that's in your face humbles you even more because you can't hide it. And also, just with basketball itself, and this is the quote I usually tell, and I was just thinking about it one day. I said, you know what? I would opt to keep it because I don't think I'd really be the person. Do I think I'd be courteous and all? Yes. But I don't think I'd be the person I am and nor the basketball player. I said, because Tourette's took me where I myself would not have gone without it. I wanted to stop an hour and a half. Tourette said, no, you got to play me now. You got 10 shots to make while you tired. And you can't have no glitches. Even if you have a glitch in it and you made it, that don't count. It don't count. It have to be 10 in a row. And if you made 9 in a row, none of them hit net, all your moves were perfect, and that 10th one you hit, it went in, but you skimmed the rim, you can't go back and retake that shot. You got to start at 0. And you got to do that. And that's what would take me another hour and a half after the first hour and a half. That's what used to almost kill me every day. Because I couldn't rest because that's cheating. I have to still push myself through it because if I slow down and take it easy, it's cheating. Start over. I was like, man. I mean, literally, I would be scared. There were times I literally could.
Like,
And then finally my breath would come out, man. Tears would flow down my eyes. I said, please, God, help me. I would be scared. I'd be like, man, I'm gonna kill myself out here if I don't get control over this thing.
But continuing to work out and push
every single day. It's like I would wake up on days, and I'm waking up, man. I sit in that bed. Some days later, I'm crying. I'm like, because I knew what I'd have to put my body through, and I knew that it was gonna put me through that every single day. And I don't feel like this today. But I also had to find reasons. That's why I tell people everybody's got multiple motivators. So some days I'm thinking about my mom getting out the ghetto. So, man, that'll get me up out the bed. I just visualize. Then some days that's not strong enough. I think about an opponent that I don't know that I may have to meet someday in New York, in Chicago, right? That'll get me out the bed. Sometimes I'm thinking about a family that I don't even have, that I want some, that'll get me out the bed. Because some days this thought ain't good enough. This ain't strong enough. And so I would always have those things to get me up. But man, I'm just to think about it. Like, with what I know now, now I wouldn't say, okay, I keep Tourette's. But if they say, hey, man, what you know now about academics and information and what you went through, I'd be like, man, I don't know, man. I probably study harder.
I hear you. Because that's intense. Like, yes, man. That is intense, man.
I said, I don't know, man. I probably study harder, man. I said, man, you don't understand. I mean, I felt like I was going to die on a consistent basis. Wow. I'm not exaggerating.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Wow. So
that's what helps also. And I tell people, man, I train NBA guys from time to time. And I say, look, what do you want? Are you trying to be great or mediocre? Because they're levels. And I said, if you are trying to be great, if you're not flirting with death when you train and contemplating quitting, you ain't working hard enough. And that's real.
That's real.
Because, man, brother, you talking about trying to be great. You can't work out like everybody else. You got to push it. You playing every time you get on this court, even when you by yourself, you playing a game. You can't lose. You know what I mean? So
no matter what.
Serious. Yeah, it's serious. It's serious.
Yeah. So let me say this real quick. So obviously with this platform, like, we talk a lot about to all of the athletes that's on here, man. Like, we've had some great ones. One of the things that stands out about the athletes that I've had on is we all think alike. So you've said like 5 or 6 things that the greats, I done had Olympians on, I done had first picks of the NBA draft on, NBA champions on, and everybody talks about a regiment, a schedule, consistency, and the burning desire to be great. So that comes in with, the ability to be efficient, making shots and everything, okay? So for this platform, a star struck. That's what I named it. I named it for a reason because it's my passion, okay? My passion is to tell the story. See, me personally, I was injured and derailed with the ACL that didn't allow me, and back then, it didn't allow me, yes. So it didn't allow me to, I don't know, just live out the NBA career that I wanted to. But I did play overseas. I was able to play a year in the NBA during the lockout season, so that was good. But it just derailed me, period. And I like the fact that I'm still standing to tell the story and people understand where I'm trying to help them out and let them know exactly how to be resilient and overcome it. So I always ask my athletes, what is your star-struck moment? Like a star being struck, derailed in some type of way. Now, you just gave me, 15, 20 minutes of Tourette's, and I know that that's a lifestyle. That's something that you've had to live with. But would you label that your star-struck moment, or do you have a moment that you could share with us that really fits that description?
It wasn't so much the Tourette's. I looked at the Tourette's as a benefit. It's when they put me on those drugs and the Haldol, and I started to gain all the weight. And man, when I gained all that weight, I went into my first year at the NBA, man, I was 19% body fat.
Wow.
And I was miserable. I felt, and I didn't realize until I was doing the Stand documentary, a guy that was on the set had Tourette Syndrome. He said, hold on. He said, stop. You were on what? I said, Haldol. He said, do you know what that is? Other than a drug that they gave me, no, that eventually I just had to stop taking. He said they give that to like mental patients to put them to sleep, to like make them zombies. And then, I'm looking it up, right? Like psychopathic, he said, you did all of that taking Haldol?
That's impressive, man.
And then when he said that, I said, I was joking with him. I was like, man, you're going to make me reach behind my back and pat myself on the
Right,
back.
exactly, yes.
I said, what? He said, yeah. So when I went to Denver, man, that was my first, I was thinking about quitting. I was depressed. But I walked into a grocery store and I picked up a magazine and it said, he's a bust. Man, when I saw that, man, there was a dude with me because it was the summer after the first year or the second year. See, he's a bust.
A picture of you?
In the magazine, called me a bust.
Mm.
And I looked at him. I can remember like yesterday. I'm in Safeway in Denver. I look, and that's what training, consistency. If you're fortunate, it comes to your aid when you need it. You know what I mean? Because you've been through this before. It's hard. I said, man, no, man, I ain't going out like that, brother. I said, this is it, starting the day. So I started to fly them in. And I would give them one of the cars. I say, I'm going 2 a days. I would be on the Stairmaster for an hour. I ended up coming back, losing 40 pounds. And that's when I ended up getting back to my high school weight and got the most improved player.
Wow.
So that right there, it like pissed me off. It's like, no, man, I've come too far to let this be my story.
That's resilience. That's true resilience right there.
Yeah.
For sure.
I said, no. Yeah.
So getting to that NBA, I know the world watched it. I watched it all the time, but I want to talk about somebody that was such a big inspiration to me and the world, but he was definitely my inspiration, and that was Mike. Mike Jordan, MJ. Now I'm sitting here on my podcast talking to one of my favorite guys in you. and I can say this with confidence, I seen you compete at a high level against Jordan. And let me just pick out this one particular game, okay? The one particular game, and I know you probably remember it. It was when they were on some type of winning streak. I don't know what it was, but it was out at y'all place.
Mm-hmm.
And you started the game, man, with the first 18 points. The first 18 points. I'm talking about did not miss a shot. I don't mean you had the first 18 for the team. I'm talking about your first 18 points, you did not miss a shot. And I just watched you navigate against Mike. And that was just so impressive, man, because I hadn't seen – like Mike wasn't a point guard, but he took the challenge in guarding quick point guards.
Right.
But, y'all had that high ball screen, that slot ball screen, and you was HELL to handle with it. And I watched it, and you better believe clips are going up on this as we're speaking about it. So the world can see that I'm not just saying this, but I just want you to speak about that, man. Competing against Mike at every chance that you got, I just felt like you was on 12 about it. Speak about that a little bit.
I'm glad you bring that up because, and you played at the highest level. Every time you step on that floor, by and large, your mindset is you want to be the most dominant player on the floor. Win or lose, you want to be like, man, this dude right here.
Yes.
But there are some people, I don't care if you're playing against a team that's not, you still in your mind, you're like, no, I'm trying to dominate. Mm-hmm. But there are some people inherently, just because who they are and what they bring, no matter how hard you try, you can't keep the level the same. Like you could be vicious every game, but that person gonna make you more vicious, more, concentrate harder just because who they are. Yeah. They're present. Mm-hmm. And he was one of them, Michael Jordan. And so because of his aura, because of who he was, he just brought that out of players to his credit, right? High school was my first experience with Michael Jordan at the Nike camp. I was either going into the 11th or 12th. I can't remember the one, but I was high school. Michael Jordan was it was 110 of the top players in the nation invited. I was the number one guard in the nation. Michael, I was on the lowest part of the bleachers. He was so close I could have reached out and touched him. He was talking to us. Out of all the people, he points me out. He said, come on out here, young fella. And when he gave me the basketball, he said, I'm going to try to guard you with everything I have. I said, okay. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm not scared. I'm nervous because it's a healthy dose of nervousness, I think, that helps us stay alert, right? And so I get it, and I give him a jab step. He bit, I took off. And when I took off with everything. And I didn't go up. I ran through it and took something off of it because he's 6'6". He was coming. I mean, Mike popped. And his recovery time. And so I kept going. I ran through the goal and just took something off and scored on it. They went crazy. So I'm thinking it's over. He gives me the ball again. So this time he bounces in front of me and I land on 2 feet. I didn't establish a pivot. So I'm looking like I'm getting ready to jab again. I'm leaning here. So I put it under my legs real quick and I lean left. He switches, I cross him over, and I score on him on the other side. After I scored, he asked me for the ball. He tells me to go sit down. And I just remember, man, I remember I didn't hear anything else. I don't know even what he was talking about. I'm just sitting there, man. I'm like, man, internally, I'm having this conversation with myself. I said, man, I just scored on Michael Jordan twice. And it was easy. I said, man, I can't wait to get home and tell my mind I ain't gonna believe it. But what it did for me, I said, man, whatever I'm doing, these invisible people, this 4 o'clock in the morning, this Tourette Syndrome pushing me to do this, whatever I'm doing is working. I gotta pick it up even more because I want this feeling all the time. Right? Yes. And that just, that just took me man. And that's when Michael Jordan, I'm talking about, man, this dude had, when he stood up, and I say this as a joke, but it's also true. I said, he was cut and he's black and he had lotion on. So you could really see the fibers in his legs, right? And man, I'm talking about, I ain't never seen a man cut up like that. That's when he was in his prime.
Right. Right.
I'm like, man.
Right.
You know, but yeah, that was my first experience with him at the Nike camp in high school. You know, and again, it was a 2-possession. My ball. Listen, if he would have got it, he's 6. I would have fought, but we don't know how the game would have went. Most likely,
exactly.
Because we got to have confidence in ourselves too. No matter if you're in the NBA or not, but you know, most likely he would have for sure got me.
Of course.
Yeah.
I got you.
Perhaps. Yeah.
No, I hear you.
But no, that was the first experience, man. And it was just a pleasure, man. Just, again, his, and I say this about Jordan, and people may disagree. And this is the importance, too, of just, he was well-rounded, but his conditioning was just superb. Michael Jordan wasn't the best shooter in the league. He wasn't the best ball handler in the league. He wasn't the highest jumper in the league. I say all of that to say this. Now, his mental approach, understanding the game, I mean, he was great at what he did. But if you're talking about, if you compartmentalize a game, right, you would say, well, he wasn't the best ball handler in the league. He wasn't the best shooter in the league.
That's a fact.
Right. But when you can, if you have me, let's say you and I, we're the same skill level. And third quarter, your conditioning starts to fail you and mine don't. And I'm able to go through first, second, third, fourth quarter, like still with that same explosion. But yet your conditioning starts to fail you. You're getting fatigued. Skill-wise, we're the same. What failed you was your conditioning, not your, you know, when your conditioning leaves, your skill goes.
Of course.
Michael Jordan was his conditioning.
Yeah.
Was here.
Yeah.
Top tier. And because conditioning and focus, that's why I tell people it goes hand in hand. However long you're able to stay conditioned, you're able to stay focused.
Absolutely.
When your conditioning leaves, you looking to get rid of the ball.
That's so true. That's
because
so true.
You're tired. And so that was one thing with him I noticed when I said, man, this dude is still explosive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course I do. And you know what? When you dominate a game and dominate the position from how we have, you know, and you've able to put together a string of points at a high rate like that and play at a high level, you understand the same thing that you're talking about. I tell my players, I tell my son all the time, conditioning, I am waiting for you to get tired. I'm waiting for conditioning to hit you so that it can be a lot easier for me. So you are speaking along with the people that are listening should always understand and focus on that part of the game because that's big. That's huge.
And I'm going to add something to that. This is after he didn't play 9 holes or 19, whatever holes of golf you hear about him coming to the game.
Right, I know.
You know what I mean?
I already know, man. I know. Wow.
Man, you got to be kidding me, man.
You got to be kidding. That's good. But so that's man, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, just that listening to a real story about, you know, legendary people like a Mike. Because people want to hear that, and I definitely do. Because I know what he's meant to the game, and how he just provided such an inspiration for everybody, you know, when he played the game. So to see someone like yourself go at him, man, it was so good, and you know, just a sight to see.
You know, and you know this as well as I do. As we were talking about conditioning, right? I tell people I say this. I said, man, when you're training, for example, when you, people that are at certain skill level, everybody looks good when they're fresh.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to an NBA tryout, a lot of coaches, when you warming up and going, they ain't even looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't really paying. I'm talking about when I was coming up.
Of
They
course.
ain't really paying attention. Why? They wait until the workout start. They want to see how you are when you get tired.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody, when you're going through the motions at this level, you should make your shot. You should look smooth.
Mm-hmm.
When you're tired, just like Martin Luther King would say, politically, he said, the true character of a person is not what you do in times of ease, is what you do in times of hardship.
Of hardship.
What type of player do I have? When you get tired, are you still going
Yeah.
you still gonna fight through it? You still gonna look as crisp as you can, or you
Mm-hmm.
gonna put your head down and pout?
Yeah.
Because that says something about your character.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know I got a dog.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I need to know I got somebody that's gonna fight through that third and that fourth quarter.
100%.
And I would say this to a lot of these guys, man. I say, look, man, I'll get some of my drills sometimes at the end after we're over. I say, let's gauge where you are. If you want a true gauge of where you are, I said, we're shooting for 10 minutes. We won't be able to make 10 minutes if we do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, you got 4 dribbles. Every dribble you're getting somewhere with it. Everything is full speed. Even though we know the game of basketball ain't just one speed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now you might be going slow to fast, fast to slow to, you know what I mean? Change the directions and speed, the little nuances. But I said, if you really want to gauge where your conditioning is, let's see if you can go 10 minutes, start at the NBA 3. I want you to, as soon as no less than 4 dribbles, shoot it, rush to get it, sprint back out to the 3. Again, let me see how long you can last before you.
Yeah. Tap out.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's scary. A lot of people don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, this is why this is important. This is how you can truly gauge yourself. If you're just going through the motions, there's no true gauge of how conditioned you are. But if you're trying to do this for 10 minutes, that first time you may conk out in a minute and a half.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Second time it might be a minute and 50.
Mm-hmm.
Third time it might be 2:15. You start to see
Progression.
because you pushing yourself to the max.
Mm-hmm.
If you trying to be safe, you will never truly know what's inside of you, and what you got and what you are able, because that's my thing is train to the point your practices should be way harder than the games.
Mm-hmm.
And you should be at that point where, look, man, no matter what they throw, I've been here before.
Mm-hmm.
I know what this feels like.
Exactly.
And if you've never been there before, then you don't know how to make adjustments when you're tired.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like Michael, yeah, he was in shape, but also, in the game, there's so many rest points that you don't get if you're training yourself and you pushing yourself through a hard practice.
Mm-hmm.
Offside defense, that's rest.
Right.
Free throws, that's rest.
That's rest.
Timeout, that's rest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many rest points, and because you've trained yourself on that ultimate level, those rest points in the game that you won't get in practice, your recovery time is going to be better, way better than the other person. You going to bounce back quicker, and you're going to get man, I wish that a lot of these people can grab that.
That's a gem. That's a gem.
Oh, my goodness. Their games would go just the conditioning alone.
The conditioning alone, man. I hear you. That's so real. That is real.
Yeah, because it's going the focus and the conditioning go hand in hand.
Yeah, for sure.
If I can last long, I can think long.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And it's simple. It seems, it's so simple if you just really categorize it like that. I mean, it's simple, man.
Even the training. I said, look, man, you can get a trainer and you can go through a whole bunch of stuff in one day. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. You're gonna learn some stuff. I said, but you end up being the jack of all trades and the master of none.
Yes.
You develop skill by taking some people can take 4 things, 5, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
You take a couple of or a few moves. You go. I don't believe in 5 spots. Man, I would literally get in the corner, and I would take my foot all around the
Yeah,
world.
that's about 30 spots, really.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Then I'm coming inside. Right. So now you master now, but I'm doing that move. Whatever I start with my right, I'm gonna do the same with my left. But because my left is weaker, because I'm naturally right-handed, if I'm doing the same number 20 and 20, this is the growth.
Absolutely.
But now I got to do this 20. I got to do this 50 because I got this got to eventually meet up.
Get it there, yes.
I want to be balanced.
For sure.
I want to be that guy when we're scouting, because we all got patterns. Everybody has patterns, but you want to make unpredictability your pattern. You want to be able to look. The scouter, we play such and such tonight. Look, man, he gonna get his. Do the best you can. We're gonna bring help from the outside. Right?
Yes.
This is how you want to train.
Yes.
You don't want to be like, hey, he can't really put it on the folk going left, force him left, or he's a spot up shooter. No, man. You leaving too much on the table.
Right. Right.
What are we here for? Right? So, man, I mean, look, man, we can keep talking and talking about.
You were excellent at that. I'm serious. And what I mean by that is just watching the game, it was always something. That's the best word. Unpredictable. Like you were never coming down the floor where a person really knew exactly what you were about to do. And I think that's what, obviously that's what made you very, very, very tough. Hey, let's go into this real quick. You playing in the Big Three.
I played 5 years. So when I came in,
What, 48? Oh, you 56?
Yeah, so, and I've been out of it. This would be my, I think, 4th year.
Okay.
Man, you got me thinking now. I may have been 48. I may have been 48. Because I played 5 years in the Big Three. And look.
Tell me about that, man. That was impressive.
Yeah, there was a young dude named CJ, man. He actually somebody else brought it to me, and I'm like, I'm not interested because you hear about these leagues popping up and they don't. And then a guy named CJ came to me and said, "Hey, man, Ice Cube starting this league, blah 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 blah. It's legit." He said they want you to come out and trial. I said, "Okay." I said, "All right, CJ, I'll do it." And I don't even play ball like that no more. I do more strength and conditioning. I'll get out there just to stay a little sharp. And I always try to stay in shape. So I ended up going to the combine in Las Vegas. By the grace and mercy of God, man, they said I was the best in shape of everybody else. And the 48. whole tournament, I mean, when we started playing pickup, I didn't miss a shot. But when the draft happened, and I always know that it's relationships. Yeah, when people say there's no politics, usually it's going to be more.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And so as we're sitting at the draft and we're listening, and I'm not going to mention their names, when we're listening to some of the people that was considerably out of shape, shouldn't have even been there. Some were injured. And I'm like, Kendall Gill was next to me. I said, look, man, I'm not surprised. He looked the three-headed monsters. And I didn't know about this until after. CJ said, man, they was about to pick a dude that was the same position as Rashard Lewis. And all they had was one guard pretty much in white chocolate. White chocolate would tell you himself. He said, man, Mahmoud, I'm a whole court guy. I'm not a half court guy. Right? But at the draft, if it wasn't for CJ, they were about to pick. The guy was up at the mic. CJ was like, man, brother, what you doing? So what you talking about? Man, you need another guard. What happens if, what's his name, go down? He said, oh, yeah, you're right. Well, who should? He said, man, Mahmoud. He ain't missed no shot. He said, yeah. Before they called the dude, they waved him off. And then that's how I got picked with the Big Three.
Wow.
That I almost didn't happen in the Big Three.
Really?
Then when I got to the Big Three, it was beautiful, man, to have that opportunity to play 5 years, to play against people that I've never played against because they were younger. And I always say this, man. Oakley, my dude. I said, but Oakley, you wasn't the oldest. You were the oldest, but you didn't play. You coached. You played a piece of a game.
Right.
I was
Right.
the oldest.
I remember that. I definitely remember that, man. I remember
Yeah,
watching that.
yeah.
I seen the piece of game he played.
Exactly,
I did.
exactly.
I
But
did.
but but I'm indebted, man. Listen, and I say this. There's always politics in something, right?
Mm-hmm.
People still ask me, "Hey, you big three?" I said, "Man, this will be my fourth year not playing." I
Mm.
said, "If you're asking me, look, it wasn't handled correctly."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "But to give some grace," I said, "Brother, I am so grateful to have played 5 years." You know what I mean?
I do.
To have that experience, you know what I mean?
Did y'all win it?
Everything has its expiration date.
Absolutely. Did y'all win it? Did y'all win it one year?
No, man, we went to the finals twice.
Okay. Finals
Yeah,
twice. Yeah.
but we went to the playoffs every year.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Those are hard ones, boy. Those are hard ones. Yeah,
believe me, all the guys that you played with in that, a lot of them are my guys, man. Chalmers, Bonzi, Well, a lot of them guys are my guys, man.
and you know what, man? I say this too, and this is dealing with perception. At that time, I'm 48, 50, 50,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, 50. And as I'm playing against these guys, because it's been years, right, since
Mm-hmm.
we played against it, I'm walking up to some of these guys, like Katina. I played against Katina Mobley,
Yeah, Mobley, yeah.
right? And I'm like, hey, man, you've always been this tall and big, right? And I started to realize, right, the power of perception.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, man, I used to play against y'all and was able to do all of that
Play,
against y'all.
yeah, yeah.
And it's beautiful though, because because when you work hard enough and you're constantly playing against people, you can't afford yourself to look at them as giants.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because then you minimize yourself, you take yourself out the game. So it's beautiful. I'm like, wow, man. Like now I'm looking at him like, man, I didn't know you was this big
Mm-hmm.
and this tall. But it's
That
good that
makes
I
sense.
didn't know that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I'd have probably approached the game a little differently.
A lot different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we go in the game like, man, I don't care who you are. No, not being boastful or arrogant.
Of course.
Like,
Of
look, man,
course.
I'm trying to kill you,
This is
just like
how
you
it
trying to
is.
kill me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's
So that was
interesting,
funny to
man.
me, man. I say, wow.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that you was able to enjoy that, man. That was
Yeah.
yeah. I like that. I like the
Yeah.
league. You know, Cube is a hell of a guy,
Yeah.
and he put together something special, man. And I really truly enjoy watching you, man.
Yeah.
It's one thing. It's one thing that you know, we haven't got a chance to talk about, and I feel like it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna be touching for you a little bit, but I actually coached 2 years over as a head coach over in Saudi Arabia.
I figured you were gonna say that when you said something about Mahmoud, but go ahead.
Exactly. So yeah, I coached the top team over there, Al Hilal Club. You familiar?
I was with Ittihad.
Etihad, that was our rival.
Yeah, I know that.
yes. So
Wow.
I mean, I wanted to tell you about that, man, because obviously I know your religious beliefs. I know, you know, your background. And I just, man, I had such a beautiful time there, man. I did. I mean,
So did
the
I.
way that they treated me, the way that they were willing to allow me to understand their culture and just, you know, because Riyadh, the capital over there, Riyadh, that's like strict. That's a strict place there. And I landed right in the middle of it, man, and, you know, had no experience with it at all. So you can only imagine some of the things that I experienced, but it was definitely a learning experience. But I wanted to share the fact that you know, I was over there with Al Hilal Club, man, and obviously they has a tremendous following in the Middle East. I mean, obviously from soccer, football over there, soccer, but some of the guys that, I had an opportunity to coach, a lot of them shared your name. I had a Abdul Rahman.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I had a lot of Hani.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
I had some turkeys. Turkey was our point guard's name.
Yeah.
But it was just a pleasure to see another form of, just from a religious standpoint. It was a pleasure to see it, visit another country, and we had a good time. But I know, again, you have a lot of experience over there, so I just want you to speak about it a little bit. First, are you familiar with that team?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
when I was there, but
Yeah.
not anymore. Yes.
Okay.
We played against those guys,
Okay.
and they were a rival then as well.
Yes. For
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
Yeah. But I'm with you, man. When I was there, I really enjoyed myself. Even if you play well, it's like I'm amazed at, and that's a very strong word, for not being able to think of another word right now. But to find guys that, oh man, I've been on this team for 5-6 years. That's rare.
It
I
is.
think, because they will change even if you getting off. They change players fast. But I was I was hoping to just stay over there for a long period. Plus, I love the fact that, I don't mind training and working out, but I know how to work myself out. And so a lot of these places overseas, it's like mandatory to practice 2 times a day.
I knew you was gonna say it.
I'm like, man, I know how to train and stay ready, right? And I love that about Saudi. It was one time.
It was one time, and it wasn't a stressful one time. When I got there, I was like, I can jump in practice with y'all
Like, man, I can play over here for years.
for years. Do you know what's crazy? Is our owner, I'd never forget this, man. He asked me that. Like, I jumped in practice one day and just was, obviously we are advanced when it comes to Middle Eastern basketball, So he was just watching me and, watching me navigate. At the time, I'm 37, 38, so I'm not all the way done, but I'm not where I was. But he really brought me in the office and asked me, like, would I play? And I told him, I said, listen, with all due respect, I am a coach. I am a head coach, and I will not be doing that.
The beautiful thing about what you did, though, by getting out there, sometimes it's good to do that because now you get their attention more.
Yes.
When you tell them something like that, because you just went and you don't even do this every day.
For sure.
Right.
Now that's real.
Exactly.
You know what I had to be careful of, and I know you've experienced this too. After I done it one time and I seen how it was, like it was kind of easy. Now I done start gearing up in my apartment like I'm going to practice again with them.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But obviously you got to come off that as you're the coach. But I'm telling you, that basketball is just an itch, man. Like if you pick one up right now, it just puts a different feeling in you,
You're right.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing, man. But yeah, I really enjoyed it there. I only spent that year with him,
Okay.
ETA.
Mm-hmm.
But I would literally get up and I would go run the streets of Jeddah.
Mm-hmm. Jeddah, yes.
And then I'd come home because most of our practices were towards the evening because some of those guys still had jobs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and then I come back and practice, man. And that was some of the best moments for me being there during that time.
And the easiest money.
For sure.
Keeping it real.
No, for sure.
For sure.
Because the talent level, no offense, the talent level, not very, it was like you're in high school.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Every now and then they'll have a foreigner, on a team. Like, okay.
Well, you got to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to work a little. But yeah, it was beautiful, man. Beautiful.
That was beautiful. Well, listen, man, I want you to just give the audience just a resilience story as well as how to overcome something that you experienced in your life. Because again, that's what this platform represents. Maybe it's something outside of basketball, maybe it's family situation, whatever. I'm always trying to give. I'm trying to give to the community, give to the kids, the youth, just to make sure that people understand. When you come here, I mean, there's people dealing with depression, drug abuse,
Yeah.
long-term injury. I had, a few athletes that has been on that have talked about, being hurt during their career and, ended up, again, getting derailed or, had to do X, Y, Z. But just giving some jewels and some gems on how to overcome and be resilient in situations.
There's a quote by George Washington Carver that I think about on a consistent basis. He says that no one has the right to come into this world and go out of it without leaving behind distinct and legitimate reasons for having passed through it. And man, I think about that a lot. I say, and I know everybody's on different religious wavelengths, right? But I said, man, God has blessed us, right, with potential, with abilities. And who are we to waste it? Mm-hmm. Right? So, and I remember saying something, and it wasn't even planned. Sometimes the best things you say just come out of just those raw moments. But, my thing is, we're responsible. Each and every one of us is responsible for the gifts that we've been given. Right. And I don't have the luxury. I don't have the right to waste it. Mm-hmm. And I forget the quote. Sometimes we get into we've been conditioned. Like you hear this talk about Shador and about being cocky and all of this stuff. But then you pull up old interviews with, I think, Venus, the tennis player. Then Tiger Woods, like, I want to win. And then sometimes it's viewed as being, because you say you want to win, you want to be great, you're cocky. And we are conditioned to apologize, right? For wanting to be great, wanting to be resilient, wanting to be the best at what we do. And I'm trying to think, because you put me on the spot, man.
No, I understand.
No, I'm not saying that in a negative way. I said, man, if my goal as a human being, and this is what kind of sometimes keeps me, because I said before, we all have these motivators, right? Everybody has something that makes them tick. Mm-hmm. You got to find out what that is for you. Mm-hmm. For me, it was thinking about my mom. It was thinking about opponents. It was thinking about helping people someday. It was thinking about a family. Mm-hmm. And I'm always juggling, right? These ideas when you're tired, when you feel like, man, no. Life is short. And I do a lot of self-talk. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly talking to myself, right? Getting on myself. Man, who are you, man? Are you smarter than that? You tougher than that? I mean, literally, I do this even at 56 years old. I never stop the self-talk. And so I said, man, if I was on the day of judgment, my ultimate goal, if God said, Mahmoud, I said, this is where I want to be. So I may never reach it, but this is where I want to be in everything that I've been given. If God said, Mahmoud, what you got for me? I want to be able to say, God, I don't have anything to give you. I use everything you gave me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Leave it all on the table.
And so this is my thing. You know what I mean? Just whatever you do, leave it all on the table. Yeah. Exhaust yourself. Believe in yourself. They did a study in the 50s at Harvard called the Hope Test. And this is the thing, too, because we mentioned something earlier. You mentioned about those qualities of resilience, of consistency, and all, but also we got to believe. I remember this imam once. They say, he said, you know why a lot of people's prayers don't answer? They say, why? Because they don't believe they're going to be answered. They pray reluctantly. So, I mean, I thought about that hope test when you were talking. We also got to have belief. They did a test with rats and they put them in the water to see how long that they would tread. And It varies, but this one particular study, within 3 minutes or so, they started to go down. So they picked them up, dried them off, and let them rest a little bit. They put them back in the water. Logic usually tells you if you're about to drown in 3 minutes and I put you back in there, oh, you ain't gonna last too much longer.
Mm-hmm.
They swam for like 60 something hours
Hours?
after that.
Wow.
Why did they swim for 60 some hours?
Mm-hmm.
Because they had the hope that somebody was going to take them out again.
Mm.
Just the mere hope and belief drove them another 60 hours. So when we talk about resilience, right? All of those things, and when you're consistent, when you sacrifice, when you're diligent, when you pay attention to details, all of these, when you're patient, all of those things. Michael Jordan's mother had a saying: whatever you end up building ends up building you. You know what I mean? So all of these things, they add up, and they intensify your confidence. They intensify your belief. Just like when they were swimming, somebody grabbed them. They get back in there. Now they like, oh, this might happen again.
Yeah.
And it pushes them further. And so we have to, these are the type of things that we have to, and there's just not one thing or two things. It's a multiplicity of things. Even we can learn a lot from nature. They do studies on these things because they think about us a lot of times, right? Like even the way the bamboo tree, they say the dude was watering his lawn a year, nothing came up. People start, man, what you doing? You look foolish. You crazy. Why you still watering your lawn? Another year, nothing happens. Another year, nothing happens. That fourth year, it broke ground. They say a bamboo tree, after it breaks ground, may grow I may be off a little bit, 8 feet a week or every 2 weeks for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, whatever it is. But why wasn't it growing? You didn't see it. And sometimes when we're working, we don't see it. We don't have the immediate results, but it don't mean things are not happening. And so with the bamboo tree, as you're watering it, it strengthens the roots underneath. But it takes about 4 years before you see growth. But once it grows, it's like a week, 8 feet a week. And I remember having a conversation with my brother. I'm going to end here. My brother used to talk about, I want to make $1 million. I want to make $1 million, my older brother. And I said, Dave, I said, I love you, man. I said, but right now you're over here, you're doing this. It's like you're all over the place. I said, find something you love. Work on your craft. If God wills, the money coming. But if the money don't come, you're doing something you love, it don't even feel like work. And when you're doing something you love, there's a tendency to be better at it because it's what you love. I said, you look at me in the NBA, and in your mind, it seemed like this happened overnight. I said, let me remind you something. From 9 years old to 21, I never got paid. I say, so things take, you know what I mean? Things take time.
They take time, yeah.
Consistency and all the patience.
For sure.
And so all of that's necessary and connected with resilience. All of those components. It's not just one thing.
What are you doing these days? Let the world know, because I know everybody is interested.
Well, 90-some% of what I do, I travel and I do a lot of public speaking.
Okay.
Actually, I'm headed out Saturday, if God wills. I got a couple of speaking engagements in Istanbul.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we got to meet also some basketball organizations. We want to talk some business with that. But most of what I do, I travel. I speak to a lot of colleges. I do a lot of work with nonprofit organizations. We're actually in the process of doing what you're doing right now too. I just don't know the direction. I do and I don't in terms of getting the podcast together.
Okay.
Right.
Anything I can help with, man, let me know.
I appreciate it. And also just still working on getting a couple of more books out. One is a memoir, and then one is because I grew up with Tourette Syndrome. And right now, I'm sure you know, mental illness, especially among youth,
skyrocket.
It's unprecedented in the history of the world, it seems, right? And so trying to write something to hopefully be able to be of service to people who are struggling.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So a lot of things I'm trying to accomplish. And then I still train guys. Mostly in the summer, NBA guys and some guys that are also going to college. Um, I still get my hands and get out there and train them as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Much needed, especially from somebody like yourself, man.
No, I
Yeah.
appreciate that, brother.
Yes,
I'm humbled every time I hear it. Yeah.
For sure. Well, man, again, the pleasure is all mine to have you on. Obviously, I mean, this has been therapeutic for me as well, to talk to you, speak to you about a lot of the things that you've accomplished and, again, just watching you, mimicking my game after yours and just knowing a lot of people that tried to be exactly what you were, especially on the basketball court. But giving your flowers as a man and some of the things that you're doing and, accomplished and that you're doing for the youth these days are very important. And again, man, I just want to give you your flowers, man. You're one of the greatest.
Man, I appreciate you saying that. I'm always humble when I hear it. I never take things like that for granted. And may God continue, man, to elevate you,
yes,
your
sir.
family, everything you do. I don't use my words loosely. We all have our days, but if there's anything I said that didn't make sense, the blame is on me. Anything else, all praise belongs to God, man. And look, continue. I just hope that your success just skyrockets.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
And I appreciate you wanting to talk to me and share these moments. And you also remind me of an uncle of mine, man, that ended up coming to Mississippi when they were trying to encourage me to go to other schools because he was one of my hardcore uncles. And my mother thought that he was going to be able to influence me, but he pulled me to the side. He said, hey, little Neff, where you want to go? I said, I'm going to LSU. He said, well, that's where we're going to go. And so he ended up against my mother's wishes. And that's another story too, taking me to LSU. But he was that uncle, man, that if somebody called him from Detroit and said somebody was messing with his family, because he would, like stories, he would come and he got a dude and beat him a whole block because he put his hand on his sister. You look just like my Uncle Lynn.
You got to send me a picture, man.
Yeah, I'm going to find a picture and send it to you, man. Yeah, so, much success, man, always, and I appreciate you, man, and I hope it goes well.
Yes, sir, man. Get a greetings to the family, man, and have a good one, and let's stay connected for sure.
All right, you have a better one.
Okay, man.
I'm a warrior. Anything you place in front of me, I'll be victorious.